Today, I'm talking about how narcissistic abuse changes you to the point that you don't recognize your personality. You feel like you've completely lost yourself, or you feel like you're a shell of a person. And I know that feeling very well because I know with myself on my journey to heal, one of the very, very first things I did when I was just getting out of all toxic relationships, all narcissistic relationships, is I wrote a PDF entitled, I Miss Me and I Want Me Back, because I did not feel like me after those relationships had ended. And with my clients today, they express the same thing. Oftentimes, my clients will express to me this desire to get back to being who they truly are. And when I ask them, well, who are you? A lot of them will say the same thing. They'll be like, well, I can tell you who I was before the relationship, and I can tell you who I am today, but they are two different people. So if this resonates with you, you're going to want to watch this video. For those that don't know me, my name is Michele. I'm a survivor myself of narcissistic abuse. I'm also a certified trauma-informed recovery coach, a somatic experiencing practitioner, and the founder of Thriver School of Transformation, which is an awesome resource for those that are ready to do the inner work to heal. So let's dive into our topic. We all have what's known as a window of tolerance, this optimal zone of when you're being you, no matter what's going on in life around you. And what helps us to stay in that window of tolerance is our nervous system. So as I go along with this video and I explain this, I encourage you to have a piece of paper. And so with the questions that I ask, I encourage you to jot down the answers that apply to you. So when it comes to my window of tolerance, which is made up of everything that I'm comfortable doing, being, feeling, experiencing. So for example, my passions before my nervous system was changed and altered because of narcissistic abuse was I loved to read. I loved to paint. I loved art. I loved people. I loved connections, deep conversations, being spontaneous, being silly. All of those things were part of my passions and the things that I enjoyed. Now, I could go on and on, but I want to encourage you to pause and write down, especially if you experienced a before and after when it comes to narcissistic abuse, before the relationship. What were the things that made you excited? What were your passions? What were the hobbies that you had? Pause this video and write it down. In my window of tolerance, my values were I valued honesty. I valued authenticity, spirituality. I valued learning. I loved learning about new things, psychology. I valued health. I loved working out. I loved staying fit. I valued family. And again, I can go on, but pause for a second and write down what were your values prior to feeling like you changed. And so now we'll just move on to one other area. There's a lot that makes up our window of tolerance, but you can go as deep as you want onto the topic. But another thing that would help me to know if I was being in my window of tolerance were my personality traits. What were the characteristics that I felt comfortable in, that I felt like me when I was in them? Pause this and really think about the personality characteristics that made you prior to the narcissistic relationship. Now that you have like some clarity as to certain pieces that made you prior to changing, those things that you wrote down and that I expressed just now, they would be things that when engaged in them, we would feel comfortable. It would feel like us. We were being our authentic self. Our nervous system would not send out any stress hormones that we were doing something wrong by being us. However, narcissistic abuse is exactly that. It's about somebody in your life making you feel like you are bad for being you. And no matter what you consists of, it's not like certain characteristics, certain qualities that the person doesn't like. It's your very authenticity that becomes a threat. It's almost like the narcissist wants you to be allergic to being you. And then you just live to be an extension of them. And so this is how the change starts to take place. First of all, because of that motive. If you're in a relationship with somebody whose whole desire and goal is to stop you from being you so that you can serve them, that's the first thing that happens. It's like we get stuck in this web. We get caught in a malignant narcissist's web. Then the slow transformation starts to take place. And how this takes place is every time you are being yourself. So let's go back to me with reading. I love to read, right? But if every time I'm reading, I'm in a relationship with a narcissist that makes me feel shame for taking time out for myself, that makes me feel like I'm selfish, or who glares at me constantly anytime I'm doing something for myself, my mind might be like, that's messed up. They're doing that. But my body responds to the emotion that's being provoked because of their behaviors. So I know that might sound weird. Like, what's the difference between the mind and the body? There's a huge difference. So the mind that knows that what they're doing is wrong has less power over our life than our body, because the mind is dealing with our conscious information. And you compare our conscious mind to our subconscious mind, and our subconscious mind is really running the show. And our subconscious mind is BFFs with our nervous system. And so what this means is that what the narcissist is doing by consistently, chronically causing you to feel a negative emotion when you are being yourself is they're creating what we call in somatic experiencing an overcoupling, which means your nervous system is going to reach a conclusion. It's going to say, oh, Michele, reading, that's bad. Now, this is really hard for me to admit, but I'm going to tell you flat out what happened when I experienced an overcoupling because of that very topic. It got to the point where when a specific person came into my life and when they would come into my home, I would hide my book. Whatever book I was reading, I would hide it as if it was my lover, as if I was cheating by reading a book. Now, the fact that I did that is just a huge red flag of somebody living with unhealed trauma. So if you're like, oh man, I do that too. I hide things because I'll get in trouble. I'm being bad if I'm doing something I love. If you're resonating with that, don't shame yourself. Don't beat yourself, because that's counterproductive. And the toxic person has done that enough to you. But what has happened is you are unconscious to your unhealed trauma, just like I was. But narcissists are very in tune to unhealed trauma. And they use that to control you. What you would find in your life, if this is happening to you, if you are slowly being erased, if your window of tolerance is slowly being changed, you'll find yourself hiding things that you love, that logically your brain is like, there's nothing wrong with this. But your body has that overcoupling now. And it's like, that's dangerous. Something bad is going to happen if I keep doing this. I need to flood Michele with cortisol, with adrenaline, with stress hormones, so that she gets scared to read a book and she stops, because then I'm keeping her safe. That's what's happening with our nervous system. If this erasing is taking place, you'll find yourself hiding things that you love. Again, there's nothing wrong with them. Things that don't make sense for people to be angry at. Something else that I hid was conversations with healthy people. If I was talking to my brother on the phone, I literally had to delete it from my recent calls. I had to hide any healthy behavior that was helpful for me. So if this is happening in your life, again, this is a sign that somebody is going into your subconscious and changing and altering who you are. And what I mean by going into your subconscious, our subconscious learns through emotion and repetition. So, for example, a lot of what changes a person is very covert and hidden. So, using the book and the reading as an illustration, it's not that it's the only thing that happened in my life, but it's such an easy way to kind of understand this topic. Okay. Let's say the narcissist in my life never, ever said, you can't read a book, which, by the way, never did, never verbally said, you can't read a book. Rather, it was the emotion that was provoked in me every time I read that caused my nervous system to change. So think about that for a second. It's not the words they say as much, as the emotion they are consistently provoking in you that causes us to change. And so what happens is we start moving outside of our window of tolerance. So the things that made me became things that became associated with fighting, rejection, abandonment, fear, anger, pain, loneliness. My nervous system started attaching being me to all of those painful emotions. And so, done over a long period of time, I no longer operated with the same window of tolerance. What made me feel most comfortable after narcissistic abuse was nothing of being me who I really was. So, for example, what made me more comfortable in the end, and this is again, like I feel something in my chest as I'm saying this, is like painful to acknowledge that this happened. So if you're feeling and experiencing uncomfortable emotions right now, listening to this, it's understandable. This is painful that somebody does this to you. But what made me feel me was suddenly, rather than loving people, I isolated myself because being around people felt so uncomfortable because being myself became uncomfortable and dangerous. And so all of that was too much. It was too much emotional charge in my body to deal with. So isolation felt more safe. I used to trust people. Trusting people became dangerous. It felt more safe to not talk or be close to anybody. I went from someone that valued connection to someone that went more years than I care to admit without any intimate connection. Laughing. Narcissists hated when I was laughing and happy. That overcoupling in my nervous system meant that my body no longer felt like I could be comfortable laughing. I went so many years without laughing, I had to reteach myself how to experience joy again. I had to rebuild my capacity to be with happiness and peace and contentment because those things became outside of my window of tolerance. The characteristics and emotions that became what the new me or who the new me was were the emotions that I was in that felt most comfortable. And what I mean by comfortable is my conscious mind didn't like it, but my subconscious felt more comfortable. My body felt more comfortable staying stuck in fear, anger, hypervigilance, resentment, pain, irritability. It was more comfortable in those emotions because remember, when you're happy and you're you and somebody provokes you and somebody doesn't like it, like covert malignant narcissists, and your body starts viewing those things as dangerous and you become irritated in the relationship or you get angry, the narcissist rewards you. And sometimes the reward is as simple as letting up on the abuse. But let me tell you, when you are being abused by a covert narcissist and their long monologues and their ways of making you feel shame and just taking your face and smearing it in it, a let up of abuse feels amazing to your body. It's like, I can breathe. And so your body starts making an overcoupling of things that it shouldn't. Safety means stay alert. Safety means hypervigilance. Feeling good means hold on to that anger because the second you stop being angry, they get mad, something bad happens. So stay angry. And when we're in emotional states for a long period of time, they become our characteristics. And by the end of a relationship like that, you are a different person. I was not me. And every time I would try to be me, by doing, thinking, feeling the things that were formerly in my window of tolerance, it felt uncomfortable. It felt impossible. It felt like I was hitting a brick wall. And then here's a challenging part. And I'm not trying to be negative, but I really want to be realistic with you guys. Okay. In my case, I thought, okay, I'm different. I can see that. Time will change. I'm away from that environment. I have detoxed my life from all these toxic people. I'm going to go back to being me, but I didn't. And this is the hard part of healing, is realizing that what the narcissist did to you by rewiring your nervous system, by causing you to literally recreate your window of tolerance to something that does not serve you, means that you really did change on the inside. And so when we change, like, our nervous system and our subconscious programs are designed to keep us, right? And so when the narcissist has changed us and it's penetrated our subconscious programs, our nervous system now works against the old us. In other words, when you try to be you, instead of feeling good, it feels uncomfortable. It feels overwhelming. It feels like now there's something wrong with you and you can't heal and you're broken and this is how you are. And this is what narcissistic abuse did to you. And now nothing will be the same ever again. And your nervous system literally works to keep that alive because it's thinking it's keeping you, you. And again, this is one of the nuances of learning about narcissistic abuse is the area of our brain that keeps us us. The subconscious mind doesn't have a preference like our conscious mind. My conscious mind can be like, I don't like this new me. This isn't me. This is who they turned me into. I want the old me back. My conscious mind gets it like that. But my subconscious is like, well, this is the you you've been for like the past few years or decades. And this you, by being this you survived all that you endured by the narcissist. And since you survived, we're not going to rock the boat because that part of your brain, all it cares about is your survival. And so now you go into healing and it's like the narcissist is gone and you're almost at war with yourself. It feels like it's not that your nervous system is the enemy. It's just that the way that it's designed to keep you, you, it's got all these overcouplings now that make that hard. Time doesn't heal that. Time heals many wounds, but it doesn't heal trauma wounds. Just like time heals many physical wounds, but it's not going to heal my broken bone. Like, I have to go and get help for that. I'm not going to sit at home and be like, oh, okay, well, I broke my arm and, it's just going to go back to being how it was. No, it needs help to go back to how it was. Our nervous system, our subconscious programs, our inner self oftentimes needs help. And so that leads me into what to do about it. I will be honest, it's not an overnight thing. You don't watch a video and learn and all of a sudden go back to being you. It's almost like it's a complete rewiring process where you're rewiring your self-image, your subconscious beliefs. You're learning to break out of overcouplings in your nervous system that should not have been there in the first place, that became connected together because of the abuse. You're learning to get in touch with a felt sense of safety that was stolen from you through narcissistic abuse. And then a huge part of it is learning how to regulate your emotions, because narcissistic abuse creates emotional dysregulation, and then they train you to need them to regulate yourself. It's a lot. It is a lot. I'm not going to lie and say, oh, do this 1, 2, 3, spin around and high five yourself and you're done. No, it does take commitment. It takes dedication. It takes patience and learning how to uproot what narcissistic abuse has planted inside of you. And so if you feel like you're ready to do the inner work, I want to encourage you to check out Thriver School of Transformation. We're coming so close to the end of the year. I did want to let you know, I do have a 50% off sale that starts the 15th of November. So for 6 weeks, you can join Thriver School of Transformation at half the cost. And you'll be joining for a year, a community of people that are doing exactly what I'm mentioning in this video. They are rewiring their subconscious. They are upgrading their beliefs. They are rewiring their nervous system and getting themselves back. But before I go, I do want to say that the recovery work is not easy. It can be uncomfortable, but it can also be the most amazing experience in your life, because I know with myself, losing myself was so painful. Working through doing, I should say, the inner work was hard. It was not overnight. It was a very much up and down, non-linear process. But getting back to feeling like me is priceless. So it is so worth the effort.